Since the time streaming became a popular method of content creation, one of the most popular kinds of games for viewership has been rage games. Whether it's due to terrible controls that have you do something simple, mechanics meant to intentionally annoy the player, or a very difficult game being unfairly punishing, there's an appeal in watching someone do something that you either wouldn't do yourself or have done before just to see how they react. Some of the most notorious examples of the genre are QWOP, Getting Over It, and Pogo Stuck, just to name a few. But on May 3rd, 2019, we gained one of the most infamous rage games around in Jump King. A lot of streamers have tackled this game, but today we'll be taking a close look at the Hololive and HoloStar's talents who struggled their way to the top of that tower. This is the history of Hololive Productions or HoloPro Jump King. Jump King is a deceptively punishing game for as simple as the mechanics are. This is a rage platformer that focuses on precision jumps. All you do is hold down the jump button and then release it. You will jump a different distance and height depending on how long you held down the button for. There is no meter, no indicator, or anything of the sort, just learning the nuances and training your intuition. The game has multiple DLCs but will mostly be focusing on the main game. The base game is divided into 9 main areas, each of which having a minor gimmick. Let's take a close look at each one. You start off in the Red Crown Woods, which serves as an introduction to the game's mechanics. It features different kinds of jumps from short hops to full jumps to help a new player learn the nuances of the jump. Reach the top and you get the Colossal Drain, a tougher area featuring some wall jumps and a large central drop that spans the whole area, introducing players to the more punishing aspects of the game. There's even a series of short hops here that tend to victimize careless or tilted players, as they may often find themselves here after a long fall from an area above. Next is the False King's Keep, where the map is split into 2 distinct parts. A lot of focus is placed on wall bounces on the right side, but then presents a particularly risky jump halfway up that could have you back in the Colossal Drain if you make a mistake. The fourth area is Bargainburg, where a lot of tricky jumps are present, most of which are done over a massive central gap that can see you drop quite a lot of screens. And to make things worse, the slanted rooftops will cause you to slip and fall. You can think of this as the area that teaches you the puzzle-solving aspect of the game. Afterwards, you are immediately greeted by the Great Frontier, the first area to introduce 1-tile-wide platforms, and it is a particularly perilous area that's just one massive drop. The pressure here comes from the realization of how far you could possibly fall with one bad jump. Now, if you manage to survive that ordeal with your sanity intact, the game welcomes you to Stormwall Pass and introduces a brand new mechanic in wind physics. This is a very devious obstacle as it challenges the muscle memory you've developed up to this point, and are forced to learn a whole new set of jumping physics. This place really strains your patience as you are normally left standing in place, just waiting, because the wind takes a few seconds to change direction. In the game's one act of mercy, you are given the only major checkpoint in the game in Chapel Perilous. This level is an indicator of the last stretch of the game, as you only have 2 more areas left after. The jumps themselves see you going across multiple chandeliers, each one topped with a 1-tile-wide platform. While tricky, you will quickly get used to these jumps since falling here does not have you lose too much progress. Now, if you thought the game was being oddly generous, the Blue Ruin will make it very clear why they placed that checkpoint in the previous area. This is the penultimate area of the game, and has been the source of a lot of rage because of the ice physics present that will have you sliding wildly across the platforms, with your only brake system being micro jumps. And finally, we have the tower. Thankfully, there are no new mechanics here, just very precise narrow ledge jumps, a 1-tile-wide platform, and a straight drop on either side of the tower. The last jump is incredibly high pressure because it looks deceptively simple, And it's a jump that you've made how many times by the time you've gotten to this point. But making a mistake here will see you plummeting all the way back down to the Blue Ruin, or even the chapel if you're unlucky enough. On the other hand, doing this jump successfully and then making one more good wall jump will see you rescue the babe up top. You're rewarded a crown and the title of Jump King. On first impression, you might think that this doesn't sound too bad. However, if you've watched any Jump King streams or even tried it yourself, you'll know just how soul-crushing it can get.
少し左、ちょっとね。なんで押したバカ野郎今のは押さないですバカ野郎
On that note, let's see how the talents fared. There are 3 distinct eras in the history of HoloPro Jump King. The first is when the game was tried out by the Holostars, as well as Miko and Aqua back in 2020. Let's have a closer look at this. Here's a general timeline of when each person started a run. For the sake of simplicity, I only plotted it down when they first started their runs, not when they finished it, because many of them did not clear, but they all certainly tried. And it all starts here on June 1st, 2020, when Roberu became the very first talent from HoloPro to attempt the game.
それは違う、有国ロベル。皆さんご視聴ありがとうございました。まだの方はぜひね、チャンネル登録、それから Twitter のフォロー、高評価、低評価。
He wouldn't be the first one to clear it, however. His first attempt was a lot of falling and understandable frustration, but this would not deter him, and he went back to the game a few times over a month, and eventually did complete it on July 23rd with a total time of 29 hours, 35 minutes, and 12 seconds. The second member to give the game a try was Aroran. His first attempt was a 3-hour stream, but he unfortunately had a very difficult time getting past the Red Crown Woods and only managed to get a couple of screens into the Colossal Drain. He had another attempt much later that was notable for creative reasons. Rika was the next of the Holostars to take a crack at the tower on June 27, 2020.
うますぎた結果死んだ。嘘でしょ。
His run featured quite the musical performance, with some of his shouts fading into a harmonic little note by the end of it.
大事だって言ってるでしょうが。
It was turning out to be an impressive performance, reaching Bargenberg, the 4th area in the game, in about 42 minutes. Unfortunately, he didn't make it past that point.
40! マジで?
The first recorded clear of the game actually came from Kira, who reached the top of the tower in one stream on June 30th, 2020.
風使ってさ、いけないこれ。ここ。
The first half was truly incredible for a first run, managing to reach the chapel in about 3 hours and even getting to the top of the tower in 5.5.
飛べ。
Unfortunately, he missed the final jump and ended up struggling for the next couple of hours, before finishing with a time of just a little over 8 hours.
で、大丈夫でいいよね。よし。
Now, not many people seem to know this, but Miko also played Jump King once before. She didn't manage to clear the game, but her run featured a unique technique that can only be described as truly elite. We'll be skipping over Estelle's run for now since it's very much intertwined with Izuru's. Instead, the next run we'll be checking out is Miyabi's attempt from July 10th, 2020. Similar to Rika, he managed to reach Bargenberg at a remarkable pace of 51 minutes, but was unable to get much further than that.
はい、タリ、大ちゃん、よしよし、中ちゃん、オッケー、もう一回、もうこれ勢いだよ、ここ勢い大事、勢い。はい、はい、来ました。よしよしよしよし。オッケー。
You'll start seeing a trend here in how the players who are able to clear Red Crown Woods relatively quickly tend to find Bargenberg as a major progression wall. Our first major milestone can be found in Shien's run, clocking in the fastest first clear in all of HoloPro with a time of 7 hours, 19 minutes, and 21 seconds. His was the total opposite of Kira's run, with him struggling a lot in all the other areas of the game, but somehow managing to clear the game within an hour from the time he first stepped foot into the chapel. Even he was shocked.
Max 左？マックスでいいのか？ここマックスでいいか？壁だよな。マックスだよな。登ったぞー！お前らー！登ったぞ
ー! Next was Estelle, who did his first recorded attempt solo, but eventually he and Izuru did their run simultaneously. They kept each other company as they struggled on their own paths. It can be surprising to see how much of a positive effect a companion can have on your run of a game like this. Estelle was eventually able to reach the top of the tower first, but the time was not recorded on stream. Izuru, however, decided to retire from the run at this point.
Yes, flowery fields. 何フラワーリーフィールドって。花畑なんてどうでもいいんじゃん。
Aqua is generally seen as one of the best all-around gamers in Hololive, and she's completed speedruns in Getting Over It and Dark Souls. However, this game definitely pushed her to the limit. She spent about 5 hours in the early areas, and then another 5 from the chapel onwards.
もう待って、もう一回今から地面に落ちたら明日昼ね。しゃー
At one point, after a particularly bad fall from the Blue Ruin, she even ended the stream out of a rage quit. But she came back the next day and finally cleared the game with a total time of 10.5 hours. And that marks the end of the first era. After Aqua finished the game, it entered a quiet phase for a few months. Nobody would touch the game until February of 2021, when it would get a new batch of contenders. This time was a little bit slower, with one person playing or finishing the game, and then there would be about a month or two of a gap before the next person stepped up. Thus begins the second era with Okayu. Okayu had a unique series of Jump King streams because of how much of a calming presence she had. Not once did she rage or even really show signs of getting flustered.
ベベンベンベンベン。おお。今のがね、僕の最大のね、怒り。
She slowly but surely worked her way through and finished with a time of 14 hours, 19 minutes, and 7 seconds. To go on for that long and not rage even once is incredible.
にあーやったー
About 2 months passed before Kanata began her own run of the game in April. This was around the time of her endurance arc with Sans in Undertale and the Blue Axolotl in Minecraft. Jump King made sure to add to that list. She only did 3 streams of the game, but 2 of them were over 11 hours, and the third one was just a little over 6. In fact, she set the record for the longest first clear time of 32 hours, 48 minutes, and a few seconds. A grueling experience colored with remarks of Dedenne as her measuring technique. 3 months later, on July 20, Gora decided to try the game for herself, and as a top-tier entertainer, created one of the most iconic EN moments around that even generated a legendary animation from 2Snacks. You see, Gora had a fault penalties gimmick in play, and for 75 faults, she would do a prank call on one of the EN members. We all know how that turned out.
Hello? Hello, ma'am. Do you have a minute to talk about our Lord and Savior Lightning McQueen?
Sure, go ahead.
Did you know that Lightning McQueen is the star of several featured films such as Cars, Cars 2, Cars 3, Planes, Fire and Rescue, Finding Dory, Toy Story 3, Coco, and Ralph Breaks the Internet, as well as other short films such as Master and the Ghost Light, Miss Fritters Racing School, television programs such as Cars, Toons, Pixar, Popcorn, Cars the series, voiced by none other than Owen Wilson.
What about Kingdom Hearts?
Another 2 months pass, and Pekora decides to try her hand at the game as well in September. Similar to Kanata, she had a handful of very long streams as well. And it was genuinely tough to watch her go through the game at some point since she ended up crying from sheer frustration. It took her around 20 hours to even get to the chapel, and then another 8 to clear the game. The scary thing was how she didn't even really give herself a change of pace of playing a different game in between her streams. Her streams over 3 days were all Jump King. A few days later, the next challenger took the stage. And every now and then, over the history of a game, a player comes along who completely changes the playing field. And Jump King is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to Mori Calliope.
This part's gonna run down! Little piece and ow! No! It's fine. It could have been way worse. No! No, wait, no! Stop!
What made her stand out as a player was that after her first clear, she kept coming back to the game, doing the DLCs, and even started speedrunning the game,
I'm gonna
with
guess.
her personal best being an astounding 7 minutes and 56 seconds.
Thank you guys! Thank you! Yeah! We got the babe! Woo!
After Calli's successful run, she became something of a representative of the game, and she even started to hang out in the chat rooms of other members who played the game from that point on. The community acknowledged her as something of a jump queen, though she herself is modest about this. The game then entered this phase where it seemed like someone new was suddenly trying the game every couple of weeks. And this is the third and current era, marked by a lot of interesting new names, and a good chance of a pink-haired Reaper lurking in the chat. The first stream in this third era was an endearing 2-hour race between Watame and Rusia. It was a classic Batsu game format, where the winner gets to pick the loser's punishment.
あ、終わり終了今どこかな
なんていうの、森にいる。
森
今ワタメの配信見てみたんだけど、こんなところ見たことない。ワタメはなんかルシアにしてほしいこととかあるの？
どこまで OK なのかな。
え、なんでもいいよ、マジでなんでもいいよ。罰ゲームとかなんでもするよ。
今度いつでもいいんだけど、会う機会があったらなんか手料理持ってきてほしいな。
会って遊ぶってこと？
全然スタジオとかでもいいよ。
やだ、スタジオやめよう、スタジオやめよう。
The next solo competitor who jumped into the fray was Iroha, the resident ninja of the group. She insists that she's a samurai, but the agility and dexterity on display in this run was definitely more akin to a ninja. She struggled a bit getting to the chapel, but the run was basically over as soon as she reached it.
カリ先輩、Thank youでござる。アドバイスくれてる。ちょっと見させてもらうわ。めっこジャンプ。息継ぎでござる。息継ぎ。やめて。乗れたんだけど。きたー。お疲れ様でしたー。
After this, she started doing speedrun attempts of the game and even managed to clear the DLC. A lot of people might consider her another favorite in the tournament coming. A couple of weeks later on Christmas Eve, Botan decided to try her hand at the game. Now this is another cool cat who's never been seen raging and treats horror games like a comedy. How she fared in Jump King is about what you would expect.
足りんかった。戻れ。危ねえ。いやー、ちょっとストップ。意味わかった。ここの出っ張りの意味わかりました。そもそも届いてなかったわ。
In one long stream, she methodically analyzed and learned her jumps as she slowly chipped away at the game, with a clear time of 8 hours, 21 minutes and 48 seconds. The fastest first clear among the girls. All the while, just laughing and having a good time.
で、壁じゃん、上ね。はい
On Christmas, the very next day, another one of Holox tried their hand at the game. Koyori struggled a lot. She did 2 streams 3 days apart, with both spanning over 11 hours each, and spent nearly 3/4 of her total time just getting to the chapel. She also used the word technique to time her jumps, but there was also one particularly painful moment where this happened.
少し左、ちょっちね。なんで押した！バカ野郎！今のは押さないです！バカ野郎！
It was heartbreaking, but she picked herself up and kept going. An hour later, she finally reached the top. Then on New Year's Day, Astel came back for another run. It had been a long time since he last played the game, but he still managed to clear it again in a single 8-hour stream this time, beating the game with a time of 7 hours and 44 minutes. We'll be skipping most of the following names ahead of us for now, but we'll come back to them a little bit later. The most recent clear of the game came from Chloe. While her first 8-hour stream was largely unsuccessful, her second stream of 7 hours demonstrated a big improvement. She managed to reach the chapel after about 12 hours total, and like her genmate Koyori, she also experienced her recovery was another story altogether. In just 16 minutes after her terrible fall, now, at this point, you might be wondering, wait, what about those other names you skipped out on? Well,
I'm fat boys! I hate when that happens. Grab me by the hair.
なんでじゃんうるせえなお前追ってくんじゃねえ
痛い痛い痛い痛い
あーペイン
伸びてる伸びてる伸びてるよ
Man.
Gosh, I'm having a tough time playing this. Insanely frustrating to play.
What is this game doing to me?
Fuck me in the ass. Oh, I hate this game!
so who do you have as your pick? I know there are some clear favorites, but I do hope some Dark Horse contestants have a good showing because this can be really fun. Best of luck to everyone in the tournament, and thanks for watching. This is Senator Warchief, signing out.